Welcome to Evolved Sun. I'm your host, Matt Finch, and in today's episode, you're going to learn all about pre-birth planning and incarnational lessons. That is, how your infinite soul, in collaboration with your higher self, your spirit guides, and other higher angelic type beings, all collaborated before this current incarnation you're living in a human biological and chemical body to come up with a course curriculum for this third density Earth School particular incarnation. And so we're going to talk about incarnational lessons, pre-birth planning, and to teach you all this, I'm going to be using as a guide a Wanderer's Handbook written by Carla Rueckert of L Research. If you're not familiar with the Law of One in the raw material, it's definitely not a prerequisite whatsoever for this episode. But I'll put a little link to my Law of One playlist up at the top right there, in case you're interested. Alright, so let's talk about incarnational lessons, and I'm going to cherry pick different sections and discuss it. This comes from Chapter 8 of A Wanderer's Handbook, which is on the healing of the incarnation. Alright, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Looking at the self from the unique point of view of the healing of the incarnation has its advantages. The basic idea is that we each incarnated with a general overall plan for the incarnation, a plan of learning and service. Here, I am talking about the broad and deepest lessons of service, the themes of the incarnation for us. As we go through the processes of taking in the learning and attempting the serving, we suffer, make errors, at least in our own eyes, and become aware that we need to heal that suffering insofar as we can. When we look back and see all the suffering, we tend not to want to forgive the suffering or the whole process, even though we pre-incarnatively set all this out for ourselves. Just as we choose our courses of study at the beginning of a semester of school, if we can come to trust in the excellence of the basic plan, we become more able to allow ourselves this forgiveness of suffering, this healing. In your third density incarnative experience, this is the heart of work in consciousness, the healing of the incarnation. For if the incarnation be healed, the potentiated and polarized servant is then free to offer, with purity, the life of the infinite Creator. As each looks upon its if-onlys, we ask that each consider that these unhealed memories dim and make tenuous the pure light which is the manifestation of love, which empowers each servant of the one infinite Creator. What are these unhealed memories? Those of Kuo say, each has had experience with complete forgiveness of others by the self. Each has achieved forgiveness with regard to others who have seemingly caused catalyst to occur for the self which was painful. With the passage of time, the words, "I forgive you," become entirely and wholly true. The memory remains, but it has been healed. Therefore, we ask that those with unhealed memories see this as an order of business to be addressed. The self must in some way open the heart to the self's need and ask with no reservation for forgiveness. And more than that, be prepared to accept that forgiveness and to drop that program and allow its spiritual energy to dissipate. Allow the past to become the past. We recommend that this kind of work be done promptly and persistently and be given priority. For sorrows and hard-heartedness make a poor combination of guests, and though they speak much, they do not make good company. The time, which is precious in each incarnation, need not be spent with such guests if the work be done. One key to this particular strain of indigo ray work is the identification of our particular incarnational lesson or lessons. Here, those of Kuo use me as an example of how incarnational plan is put together. Let us look at this particular instrument's situation, working toward generalization while doing so. It is commonplace among those who have chosen the manner of their incarnations that there should be more than one stopping place, shall we call it, within the incarnation. The balance of wisdom and compassion in the mind of the entity before incarnation is automatic. It is a portion of the personality. The wanderer is likely to be wise enough in a balanced manner to offer to the incarnated manifestation of self before birth one central lesson on the personal level and a series of attainable goals within the impersonal life in service. It is grasped by the individual before the incarnation that during the forgetting process, the cold, clear logic of all the goals to be met will be greatly muddled, if not obliterated, from any conscious knowledge. Therefore, there are the stopping places, for it is not known before it is experienced how much of the lessons learning the spirit self may tolerate without needing healing beyond that which can be offered within incarnation. If the repetition of lessons wearies the spirit overmuch, a seeker's higher self may actually choose to allow the incarnation to come to an end, so that the incarnational healing that is too much to sustain within incarnation might be undertaken. When an entity approaches the end of an incarnational lesson, if that entity has been exhausted by this learning, it will be given the opportunity either to embrace life with all of its confusions and distresses, or to embrace the dropping of the physical body and the movement into whatever healing modes the learned lesson has created the need for. When this moment occurs, the choice is freely offered in silence, and the love of life of the entity, or the disdain of life, create the potential for greater health within incarnation and a new lesson to be learned, or the gentle or rough path to the passage into larger life. For the most part, however, the self within incarnation can embrace enough of the experiences of learning that the incarnational lesson, even if missed completely in one opportunity, has the chance to come around again. For we have planned many contingencies. It is the case with most entities entering your illusion that parallel, if we may call them, programs of incarnation are seen as possibilities. If one choice is not taken, then another presents itself, so that those lessons to be learned are available. It is quite difficult to describe to entities within your illusion the freedom and fluidity with which these choices are made and pursued. Within your illusion, it is generally the case that a plan is made and undertaken, and then, if an alteration is made, the changes in the outcome are easily attributable. However, before the incarnation, the range of freedom of choice is such that level upon level of agreement is made, therefore allowing for changes to occur. For though there is the ability to see into what is called your future, this ability also sees that nothing can be known for sure, that there shall be changes, that therefore there need to be plans for the changes. If one event occurs, then this allows another, but may disallow yet another, and so forth in an endless progression of cause and effect. Therefore, there cannot truly be said to be mistakes within any incarnation. I find the thought that there are no mistakes very encouraging. It is so easy to think of lost opportunities, but we always have another chance to express our awareness of the truth. We may not have the privilege of expressing it to just the entity we had hoped to, but if all are seen as the Creator, we can express that truth to a new person with fond regards to those we have been unable to express that truth to in our past. Our incarnational lessons will vary depending on the person's pre-incarnative view of his need to learn, but we are all the same. Those who feel that they have the experience of the presence of the one Creator, and those who have the experience of lack of perceptible union with the Infinite One, appear to be in different situations as regards the choosing of how to manifest the love and the light of the Creator. However, the openness of both kinds of entities to being of service are identical. Some have the experience of aloneness, of loving the Creator but feeling isolated. Others feel the consolation of the Spirit always. These apparent differences are an artifact of the incarnational lessons to be learned. There is no true distinction between those who love the Creator. As the strength of faith and will is, so is the entity's true association with the Great Self, of which any atom of consciousness is a part. Each of you is the same, though your experiences vary. The dedication, which is not apparent, moves as the true measure of service. So whether we are happy or discontented today, the lessons and the healing of the incarnation are concerns we are equally qualified to address. The primary concern here is to discern the pattern of our own incarnations. Each entity has, before the incarnation, chosen this pattern in order that it might balance and intensify and refine those qualities gathered before this illusion that are felt to be primary. There is a great plan within each entity's life, which is the pattern, the dance within the illusion. It is important in learning the mystery of creation and the honor of serving that each entity trust the destiny that has been chosen and fuel that trust with the power to persevere, knowing that even if confusion and sorrow and suffering have their day, there is the resolution at some point within the illusion, so that each seeker will find the indication that it is truly upon the right path. The incarnational lesson is most often about the giving and receiving of love in one form or another. Sometimes we find ourselves placed by our higher selves in conditions of limitation, whether from a chronic health concern, a situation with another person, or a trauma we have serious trouble healing, and find our life changed, not for the better, at least apparently. We might well bemoan this pre-incarnative tendency to impose limitations, illness, difficulty, and challenge on our life experiences, since we cause ourselves woe thereby, but we also, hopefully, are putting ourselves directly in the refining fire we had hoped to achieve. As is so often the case, meditation is recommended in working with this practice. The door to the deep self is fairly carefully closed when a spirit enters into manifested third density incarnation. Vision fails, awareness recedes, finely tuned senses within are muffled with flesh, and the incarnation grows darker as the child grows to be an adult. Yet, the small being survives in the growing complexity of the personal universal awareness that is the self's awareness of a subjective universe. In that first look at one's universe, the outcome is dim. Things look dark, difficult, and dreary. There is work in all directions to support the physical self, to corral the emotions, to find the truest heart of self amidst all the vicissitudes of change. Yet, there is within a universe of suns, shall we say, energies that represent, and in a holographic sense are, the vibrations of wisdoms represented by the outward sun and stars. This door to the deep mind where this universe revolves, and can gradually be seen, is opened by the self and the self only. That is, it cannot be opened by another person in incarnation. Yet, in the inner room of meditation, when silence is truly reigning and the spirit somewhat freed, the desire to find inspiration, taken into silent meditation, yields an inner guidance. Inner resources come into more and more developed usefulness. The basis for this work is the assumption, which I believe to be literally true, that as we think, so we are. All that you experience within your incarnational pattern is a product of your own thinking, whether that thinking be conscious or unconscious, whether that thinking be done during the incarnation or previous to the incarnation, for it is the power of the mind to generate thoughts that, when focused upon for a long enough period of what you may call time or experience, then become manifest within your life pattern to provide glorious opportunities for learning or for serving. Thus, all you experience is a product of thought. So there you have it. As we reflect on what we just covered, before we were born into this incarnation, into this human body, as a baby, our souls came up with a course curriculum for this experience. Incarnational lessons which we wanted to work on, and with lots of different alternate paths in case we missed certain signposts and synchronicities and intuitions along the way. In my own life, I think pre-incarnatively, my pre-birth planning, I probably chose way too big of a course load, as I did one semester in college in this incarnation, where I just took way too much, and I was also working part-time, and it seemed like my eyes were bigger than my actual appetite for learning and for serving. So in this incarnation, I've dealt with so many different issues, from alcohol addiction, drug addiction, chronic pain, childhood, adolescent, and adult trauma, getting cheated on by more than one girlfriend, and so many other things. It's actually quite humorous now. So I know that doesn't make it all that much easier to deal with suffering and to deal with hardships, whether they're physical, mental, emotional, or ... etc. Fill in the blank. But I feel, at least for me, knowing that I chose a lot of the challenges that I've faced in life and that I will face later in life, and that I set these challenges and these lessons to learn for ultimately spiritual growth For me, that makes things a lot easier to deal with, because as soon as our physical body vessel stops working and our soul moves on to greater life, to true life, we can't take anything with us. We're not taking our physical bodies with us. We can't take our possessions with us, our money. All we can take is our spiritual growth, our polarization on the path of service to others, our balancing of love and wisdom, our growth regarding being able to love and forgive and accept and give love to others and forgive others. That's all we can take with us. So at least literally there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I don't know about you, but I used to fear death and I used to want to live forever. Like literally one of my goals when I was younger was to live long enough to where technology and science came up with a way to where we could become immortal in our physical bodies. And at the least, I wanted to be able to live until I was like 100 to 110 or 120. But nowadays, I really don't care about that. I'm not afraid of death whatsoever. And on some days, depending on how hard things have been and how weary I've become, there's even a part of me that looks forward to the physical body dying. What a trippy experience that will be. So anyways, I love this topic. And there's a guy named Robert Schwartz, Rob Schwartz, I think is his name. He wrote several books on pre-birth planning. I think his first book ever was called Your Soul's Plan. Other great books on this same topic are Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton and Between Death and Life by Dolores Cannon. Simply amazing books that go deep, deep into pre-birth planning, your soul's plan, soul contracts, incarnational lessons, reincarnation, past lives, karma, and so on and so forth. And with that being said, thanks so much for listening. Take good care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.